just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapedomaniac podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
Peace, family, and welcome to this edition of the Drapedomaniac podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, that is the head Drapedomaniac in charge. And I'm here with my lovely wife, Angela.
What's up?
And we're here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. Well, this morning on Twitter, you know how you'll have things just come up on your Twitter feed and you can look at them or not. I looked at this one, and it had a clip of a man who was being robbed. He was in a gas station. This was in Detroit. He had won $30,000 in the lottery and purchased a gold chain that cost $20,000. And three other people, black people, all of them were black. 3 people jumped him and stole his chain. And when I read the comments, when I saw the setup and the comments, it kind of bothered me. And so I thought of what I wanted to do as the topic for today, which is correctly directing our anger or how our anger is misdirected. So that's pretty much what we'll be talking about today. Angela has something, so I'll let her start.
Ooh, okay. So I don't know if y'all want to do a timestamp, but when I heard that the topic was going to be anger, I thought about this poem. I'm not a poetry person. This is the only poem that I like. It's not the only poem that I like, but anyway, I'm not a poetry person. But in college, I came across this poem, and for probably a week, 2 weeks, a month, everybody I saw, I was like, you got to hear this poem. And some people would be like, oh my God, you're so angry. And so I just thought it was really interesting because I was surprised. I was surprised that that's what their takeaway was. Mm. This is called Poem About My Rights by June Jordan. And I guess you could pay attention to the time and maybe make a timestamp for people who don't like to listen to dramatic readings of poetry.
I'll try, but I'm not sure I know how, but I'll try.
Okay. Poem About My Rights. Even tonight, and I need to take a walk and clear my head about this poem, about why I can't go out without changing my clothes, my shoes, my body posture, my gender identity, my age, my status as a woman alone in the evening, alone on the streets, alone not being the point. The point being that I can't do what I want to do with my own body because I am the wrong sex, the wrong age, the wrong skin. And suppose it was not here in the city, but down on the beach or far into the woods. And I wanted to go there by myself, thinking about God or thinking about children or thinking about the world, all of it disclosed by the stars and the silence. I could not go, and I could not think, and I could not stay there alone as I need to be alone because I can't do what I want to do with my own body. And who in the hell set things up like this? And in France, they say if the guy penetrates but does not ejaculate, that he did not rape me. And if after stabbing him, if after screams, if after begging the bastard, and if even after smashing a hammer to his head, if even after that, if he and his buddies fuck me after that, then I consented and there was no rape. Because finally, you understand, they fucked me over because I was wrong. I was wrong again to be me, being where I was. I was wrong to be who I am, which is exactly like South Africa, penetrating into Namibia and penetrating into Angola. And does that mean, how do you know if Pretoria ejaculates? What will the evidence look like of the proof of the monster jackboot ejaculation on black land? And if after Namibia, and if after Angola, and if after Zimbabwe, and if after all my kinsmen and women resist, even to the self-immolation of the villages, and if after that we lose nevertheless, what will the big boys say? Will they claim my consent? Do you follow me? We are the wrong people of the wrong skin on the wrong continent. And what in the hell is everybody being reasonable about? And according to the Times this week, back in 1966, the CIA decided that they had this problem. And the problem was a man named Nkrumah. So they killed him. And before that, it was Patrice Lumumba. And before that, it was my father on the campus of my Ivy League school. And my father afraid to walk into the cafeteria because he said he was wrong, the wrong age, the wrong skin, the wrong gender identity. And he was paying my tuition. And before that, it was my father saying I was wrong, saying that I should have been a boy because he wanted one, a boy, and that I should have been lighter skinned and that I should have had straighter hair, and that I should not be so boy crazy, but instead I should just be one, a boy. And before that, it was my mother pleading plastic surgery for my nose and braces for my teeth and telling me to let the books loose, to let them lose, in other words. I am very familiar with the problems of the CIA and the problems of South Africa and the problems of Exxon Corporation and the problems of white America in general and the problems of the teachers and the preachers and the FBI and the social workers and my particular mom and dad. I am very familiar with the problems because the problems turn out to be me. I am the history of rape. I am the history of the rejection of who I am. I am the history of the terrorized incarceration of myself. I am the history of battery, assault, and limitless armies against whatever I want to do with my mind and my body and my soul. And whether it's about walking out at night, or whether it's about the love that I feel, or whether it's about the sanctity of my vagina, or the sanctity of my national boundaries, or the sanctity of my leaders, or the sanctity of each and every desire that I know from my personal and idiosyncratic and indisputably single and singular heart, I have been raped. Because I have been wrong, the wrong sex, the wrong age, the wrong skin, the wrong nose, the wrong hair, the wrong need, the wrong dream, the wrong geographic, the wrong sartorial. I have been the meaning of rape. I have been the problem everyone seeks to eliminate by forced penetration, with or without the evidence of slime. But let this be unmistakable. This poem is not consent. I do not consent to my mother, to my father, to the teachers, to the FBI, to South Africa, to Bedford-Stuy, to Park Avenue, to American Airlines, to the hardened idlers on the corners, to the sneaky creeps in cars. I am not wrong. Wrong is not my name. My name is my own. My own. My own. And I can't tell you who in the hell set things up like this, but I can tell you that from now on, my resistance, my simple and daily and nightly self-determination may very well cost you your life. The end.
Okay. So what does that say to you?
I think of the shadow side, the things that people don't talk about. I think about hierarchies and how anger or how things get, when you talk about misdirected anger, I think about how control is sort of misdirected anger or misdirected something. So yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think of this as a poem about anger. I just think that it's interesting that a lot of people interpreted that as something about anger. But I do think, sometimes, so maybe the theme that I want to explore is not necessarily misdirected anger, but how we handle our feelings and emotions about what we experience and what are healthy ways to handle them and unhealthy ways to handle them.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's the direction that I want to go to is, because I'll give my story about Tasha. Years ago, I had this dog named Tasha, and when I got Tasha, she was bigger than a puppy, but she wasn't full grown. But someone gave her to me and told me that when they found her, she had been thrown out of a car. It's like a car was in front of them, and they threw the dog out the car. And And then the people who gave her to me already had a bunch of dogs, and they asked me if I wanted one. And I said, sure, I'd take her. And as I started working with her, interacting with her, and the family started interacting with her, we saw that she was afraid of everything. I mean, just literally anything you tried to do, she would run. If you tried to feed her, you could prepare her food or the bowl or whatever, and she wouldn't approach the bowl or eat until you left the room. You could it didn't matter if you backed up or what. She waited until she felt like you were totally gone, and then she'd go eat and drink. And heaven help you if you were trying to like pet her or whatever. And because she just bolt. She wouldn't let. It was odd, just an odd situation. You couldn't even get close to her. At one point, she ran away, and she was gone for about a week. But the thing was, she was gone for a week at the wood line of where I was, the house I was living in at that time. There was no fence there, so she'd go into the wood line and just keep on going. It wasn't like she was lost or anything, because you could see her out there. Like every day you could see her out there, and we'd have to like take food out there. And then I finally ended up one night having to build a trap just so that I could get her, because you couldn't catch her because you couldn't get close enough to her to even reach out or to chase her or anything. And so I built one of these like rope traps that you see on TV or cartoons or whatever, and I put the food in the middle of it. And one evening, I watched as she was like very careful approaching it. And finally, I can remember very clearly, it was dusky out. And all I could see was kind of her shadow as she got to where the food was. And I yanked the rope and caught her around the waist. It didn't hurt her, but it made it so she couldn't run. And so I had one of my sons, or it might have been one of my daughters, like hold the rope. And I went out to her and got her, and she was like skin and bones. We'd been giving her food, but she was still out there not eating properly and just scared of everything. As a side note, oddly, the only time that she would act like a normal dog is if you ran the lawnmower. And you would think the sound of that would scare her. But actually, when you turn the lawnmower on, she started running around and barking and lift her tail. And that's another thing. She literally, I don't mean figuratively, she literally always had her tail between her legs. Except when you ran the lawnmower, she started running and acting like a normal dog. Other than that, her tail was always between her legs. And then I finally, at one point, this was maybe a month or two later, I didn't have the time or the willingness to work with her. And I finally ended up having to call the animal shelter to come and get her. And that's how bad off she was. And I remember again very distinctly that I never once, not once, did I ever get upset with Tasha. Never. I was extremely upset with whoever did that to her. And I guess that's what I'm working toward, or put me on the subject of this and the way it connects to, excuse me, what I said at the beginning. All the comments I'm reading from black people about, the man spending $20,000 on a when he only got $30,000. And as I was thinking about it, I'm like, he had less than 30,000, because after he got taxed, he probably only had 25 or less left, and spent the whole thing on a chain. But he spent $20,000 on a chain, and 3 black people jumped him, and so on. And so the whole thing was a mess. But when I look at that, the way that I conflate that with Tasha, or compare that with Tasha, is it's easy for us to look at our own people and the things that we do and talk about, how ignorant we are, or how stupid we are, or how whatever we are. But there's never a discussion of how we got like that. There's never a discussion of who did this to us and put us in this situation. I'm not saying that people are, our people are just blameless and we just have no control of anything. I often talk about the eternal question, which is something Angela and I talk about. For me, the eternal question is, at what point does a person become responsible for their own actions? And frankly, I don't know. I don't know. I believe that there is a point, but I don't know it. And therefore, as opposed to coming down like a ton of bricks on people who do things, I will tend to look at the fact that they were put in a situation of not of their own making that is causing them to be a certain way. And for some reason, and maybe I need to look into my own past to get this answer, but for some reason, some of our people seem extremely resistant to the idea of cutting our people some slack. And I don't, like I said, I may need to only look as far as myself, because there was one point in time where I was like that. I was death on our people as far as, black people need to do this and black people need to do that. And I was one of these, the problem with black people, the problem with black people is what I used to be. But now when I hear one of our people starting a sentence with, the problem with our people need to, my question becomes, okay, then what do we need to do? How do we do that? This, that whole, you need to get some self-esteem, statements. Okay, well, how do I do that? So anyway, I just feel myself feeling a way about that. Yeah, on a personal level, I think it's ignorant if you only have $20,000, but who knows? He might have $1 million. Who knows? But I'm just saying, he didn't look like he had $1 million. But if you only have $25,000, you go out and buy a $20,000 gold chain. The problem is deeper than a $20,000 gold chain. Why do you need this? Why do you need to flash this? Why do you feel this need to have this material item? Why do you feel this need to have everybody, be in this position of look at me? Or why do you, even if you don't want people to look at you, why do you feel you need this for validation? What's going on in you that you want to spend this much money on a gold chain? And that's assuming that you don't have plenty of money already. And to those who stole it, why are you stealing it? Why do you feel like you need to steal something? Why are you in a position that you have to steal something? And why are you willing to rough a person up to get it? What's the problem? So these are the questions that I ask. And again, I feel like a lot of our anger, or even if it's not anger, it's, us feeling some kind of way. Why is it always directed toward our other people without any further analysis? And, that's basically what I feel about that. I know I went on and on for a while. So you have the floor.
You had a lot to say. I mean, when you were telling me about the video, I just think of it as like, a bunch of people caught up in a web of BS and confusion.
Right.
And when you say, oh, well, I think it's ignorant for someone to, have 30,000 and spend 20,000, or as you say, have 20,000 after taxes and spend 20,000. And I think, ignorant.
Well, let me correct that, because I don't really think it's ignorant. I mean, if you have $1 million, but I see, that's the thing. I don't know anything about this guy's situation, but say that he has a bunch of bills stacked up, or his family needs food, or he needs to pay bills, and he goes out and buys a $20,000 gold chain, and all he has is $20,000, 25. Then I do think that that's ignorant. I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm not saying it's that there's some wrong with his money. But I'm just saying that's a problem. But if he has like $1 million and he takes 20 grand and buys a chain, hey, again, it's still his money. Whatever he decides to do with it is his business. But when I don't want it to be interpreted that I'm making some kind of a judgment call about him. I'm just saying I wouldn't do that, but I might go and blow it on something different because 20,000. So, who knows? People do what they do.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna explore the word ignorance, in terms of, I think often we accurately use it in terms of what it technically means, even though on the undercurrent it's meant to be like they're a fool. But I think that we are ignorant of a lot of things. I think we're ignorant of ourselves. I think we're ignorant of the society. I think that, this idea that on one hand, I feel like, well, if I had $20,000, like you say, I could see myself blowing it on, or I don't know if blowing it or invest. Like, I feel like he spent that money on something that made him feel good.
Right.
And something that made him it made him feel good. It made sense to him. Mm-hmm. And I could see myself spending money on something that would make sense to me.
Right.
Which, someone else with a different value system may think would be foolish. Like I might, travel around the continent of Africa and see, right. But I do think that, we're all caught up. We're caught up in like this web, I think. And so I feel like this idea that with $20,000, a black person could, if he had a whole bunch of bills piled up, or if he, I feel like $20,000 is something, but I feel like when you're a black person, it doesn't really matter how much money you have in this society and in this culture and how many good decisions you make. I think we all kind of find, I feel like the people who have a lot of money, the people who have a little money, the people who make good decisions, the people who make bad decisions, the people who came from good families, the people who came from bad families, the people who are formally educated and, have advanced degrees, and the people who dropped out. I think as black people in this society, we more or less all end up at the same place. Right. So on one hand, I kind of feel like there might be some wisdom and finesse in just doing whatever the hell you want to do that makes you happy. So, that part in terms of how I evaluate or judge another person, I think is, especially in the context of this society. Now, if it was a white person, I might be evaluating that differently because I feel like $20,000 for a white person, could go a lot further than $20,000 for a black person. They're not paying the black tax. Right. They not as much in deficit in certain ways as we are. So, whatever. But I feel like, I guess the other thing for me is just this idea of, if we are ignorant, the people who, when I think we're ignorant of ourselves, and I think we're ignorant of the truth of the situation we're in. So the people who robbed the guy, the person who, maybe spent, all of his money on something that could be looked at as foolish and wasteful, and turning that money right back over to the same system of white supremacy that is holding us down.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like our knowledge of self, our knowing ourself is really lacking. And I don't think you can buy that with money,
right.
So I feel like when I look at that situation, I feel like the issues are not exactly for me how the person spent the money or what, or the people who robbed them. It's like a broader issue of our ignorance of self. How can we be self-determining? How can we turn inward when we don't know ourselves? How can we determine ourselves when we don't know who we are? Because you could look at, he made a self-determining decision to buy that chain. He determined that was, a joy or a pleasure or something important for him.
I guess my thing is, because we're talking about the man in his decision, or even the criminals in their decision, because what they did was criminal. So that's why I'm saying the criminals. The criminals looking at their decision. But I think my focus is more on the reaction to both sides of it. Not even what happened, the reactions to it. As far as our people this, we need to do that. We're this and we're that. And once again, there's no examination of how did we get in this position. Just like I said with Tasha, I could make the statement that she's scared of her own shadow. She won't eat. She's this and she's that. And all of that would actually be true. That would be a fact. But the point remains for me, above what she's doing in the moment or the way that her condition is presently, there's a cause for that effect. And my focus, at least with her, became the cause. Whoever did that to her, that's where I want to focus my however I'm feeling. And that's what I want to examine. That's what I want to break down. That's what I want to blow apart and put a stop to. As far as
drag and put on blast.
And drag and put on blast is who did that to her. And so in that situation, we go into these, long discussions about the man's motivation for getting the chain or what. That doesn't matter. Or the people who robbed him and what they did. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. It matters to the person who got robbed, and it matters in a societal way. But I want to put on blast the people who put you in that situation, the people who caused you to feel like you need to rob somebody, or caused you to need to rob somebody, or the people who caused you to be in the condition that you're in.
And I think that if I were to look at this like situation metaphysically, like when we're doing work on ourselves and when we're working to, consciously working on our growth and development, a lot of times there are aspects of ourselves that make us feel uncomfortable, that embarrass us, that we don't want to shed light on, we don't want to focus on. I've heard Christians say it, I'm too blessed to be stressed. And sometimes you can be blessed and stressed at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. Or, so I think that this idea that if I'm stressed is showing weakness, for me, it sort of connects to this whole story, because I feel like on both sides of it, part of the reason why I think certain types of things get traction is because we're embarrassed about our shadow self, writ small and writ large, as a community. So there's an aspect of us that's embarrassed by the choice to spend money on something flashy and gaudy and, wasteful like a chain. When we got, you probably got child support to pay where you live, and you putting money in your rims and you don't even have a car, or, And then there's also the shadow and the embarrassment that we feel about, the criminal element that is a part of us. And, why are they, and so I feel like I guess as I grow and develop, I feel less and less embarrassed by that. Like, I just feel like, there's people out there just doing the best that they can, or what makes sense to them. It may not make sense to me. And in 5 years, that may not make sense to them, because, God willing, we're all growing and developing. And some of the decisions that those of us who could criticize them are making now, maybe in 5 years, a year, 50 years, we'll look back on some of our decisions and see, where it was a reflection of our immaturity, where it was a reflection of us being misguided, or, seeking validation from without instead of within.
And that's an excellent point, because I've often said, I don't hide it. And I'm not proud of it, but I don't hide it, is that had you met me 15, 20 years ago, I'd have been what our people consider a straight up coon. Okay. And that's just the truth of it. But I'm not the person I was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm a totally different person. My mindset is totally different. It's totally changed. And it took time for me to grow into that. And
it took experiences of making mistakes and doing stupid stuff.
Right, exactly. And I think the one thing that we always forget or neglect to take into consideration when we're judging each other or coming down hard on each other is that everybody is on a different place along this path. This is a journey that we're all on. We're all on it, but we're all in different places. Take a freeway or a highway, for instance, and you pass a certain place. Well, there's somebody who passed that same place 2 hours before you. And there's somebody that's behind you that's going to pass it 2 hours after you. But it's not for you to say, well, I just passed it and so I'm good. But whoever that is back down the road, 2 hours behind me, they're just a mess. Well, the person was saying the same thing about you when they passed it 2 hours ago. So I would just like to see our people stop being so hard on each other. And once again, just bringing all that smoke down on the people who freaking caused the freaking issue.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I can't remember what our topic was last week, but something from what we've talked about here recently, I feel is really important in that a lot of times we're spending our time focused on other people. Whether, the topic was leaving white people alone or minding my own business. Uh-huh. We're focused on, well, he shouldn't have bought this gold chain or they shouldn't have robbed the person. And it's a prime opportunity, I think, when we realize that we're focused externally to focus on ourselves and what should we be doing? What could we be doing? What opportunities are in front of us right now? What's the next step on the path for us and how can we continue to move forward. But I actually feel like the reason that certain stories and things get in front of us and get in front of us is to keep us in that habit. Right. And I think that because we're in that habit of focusing externally, that, we can feed into it. Right. And misdirect not only our anger, but I feel like misdirect a lot, our energy. Right. Because anger to me is, I don't think that there's anything, I think anger is productive. Mm-hmm. It's like you eat and you make a bowel movement, like making a bowel movement. There's nothing, wrong with that. That's a normal part of the process. Anger is a normal part of the process of, being a human. Right.
But I'll tell you what, I seldom, and maybe it's just because I don't listen enough, or maybe I'm listening to the wrong people, but in my small circle of experience, I seldom hear our people talking about the war criminals who run this country, the war criminals who are walking around free, the war criminals, black and white, that are fooling around and murdering literally millions of people, by proxy or by extension, who the people who own these corporations that are irradiating the planet and destroying the world and all this. I don't hear jack piss about them. I don't hear discussions about them or so on. And there's a reason for that. It's because I can't get at Jeff Bezos. I can't get at Elon Musk. I can't get at Warren Buffett. But I can get at this low-hanging ass fruit of a black person who's sitting right next to you. I can get at them, right? There's one person who's doing something or did something that is of little or no consequence. And I'm going to spend my energy fooling around trying to get at them, right? Or getting at them because they're low-hanging fruit and I can just pluck them off the tree. As opposed to the ones who are at the top. And you hear nothing about them. And again, that just goes back to the whole, why are we in this position?
I don't know who in the hell set things up like this. Right. So who is it? It's not my mama. It's not my daddy.
Exactly.
Who set it up?
Exactly. And so, so in that, one of the ways to fix that is what you had just said, is for me to mind my own business. Mm-hmm. And possibly consider these things. Consider what I just saw. Consider the gold chain. Consider the people who robbed somebody, and look inward at what's my best use of resources. Mm-hmm. How do I go about not being a criminal, or how do I go about not doing wrong by people
and by myself,
and by myself, and
how can I do right by myself? How can I do right by other people?
Right. And so, there are things that happen in our community that need to be addressed. If you have our men out here, or our women, molesting children or robbing each other, yeah, this stuff needs to be addressed, but it needs to be addressed in a way that takes into account our people. That doesn't mean you going easy on everybody and letting people off the hook and so on, but it just means that we look at everything in context, or we, as best we can, we try to look at things in context. And I if I'm being punished by someone, I'd rather, if I kill somebody, I'd rather my mother determine, or not even my mother, I'd rather somebody who cares about the community to judge me and pass a judgment on me. The judgment might end up being death, but if there's people who care about me and my people, the judgment is going to fit the crime. It's going to be a proper judgment. But if I let people who hate me judge me, then I got a problem. If I just stole a stick of gum, I'm going to have a problem. If I'm being judged by people who hate me.
And you say, I almost feel like we're in this web, so I don't know if we have much choice, or I don't know how to figure out. I'm sure, I believe that there is a way to get out, but I feel like I'm not, when that Malcolm X thing or whatever, if you let your enemies educate your children, then you're a fool. And it's sort of like we're in this situation. We have this awesome, challenging opportunity to get free. Challenging.
Right. and I guess that's just, we're caught between a rock and a hard place.
But there is.
That's not saying there's not a way out. It's just that we're in a hard spot. It's something.
When we were just talking today, or when we were talking earlier, it started to remind me a little bit of the Emperor card in a tarot deck. Typically, the Emperor kind of is in response to abundance, like things just growing wild and going out of control. You could look at the Empress, the card before that, like that. And then the Emperor is about structure. The Emperor is kind of about walls and boundaries. And there's one deck that I'm studying now, and the Emperor has something in the Emperor's hand that looks like a bomb. And so it's sort of like, if the Emperor is not able to get things in control with boundaries and walls and rules, and then the Emperor might have to blow skid up. But I was thinking about the Emperor today in our conversation, just in the context of, I feel like last week when we were talking about, you mind your own side of the street. You stay within your boundaries, mind your own business, which, that's the structure that you can control.
Right.
But then I think there's also something to be said with balancing that out with that bomb that, strategically used, and the Emperor definitely deals with strategy. But I think that there are strategic bombs that can be lobbed that are effective for our growth and development and survival and thriving as a people.
Right.
But bombs at each other are not necessarily effective bombs. Right. If we gonna bomb somebody, if we gonna blow some skid up, let it be those who have set things up like this, not, those who are in this mess and Magwire. The messin' something wire. It's some word I'm losing. But anyway, this mess with us.
Quagmire.
Yay, maybe.
Yeah, that's from Family Guy.
Quagmire is not from Family Guy. Maybe they
that's
used
the guy
it in
that's
there.
a sex pervert.
No, but there's a.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Quagmire is.
Okay.
Quagmire is like you're bogged down in something, and you're just having a hard time moving through it. So.
Yeah. So, just kind of finding that balance for ourselves, and it kind of goes back also to the serenity prayer, knowing, is this a situation that, I can impact? Is it a practical, a good use of my energy to be analyzing, this person's spending choices and, these people's robbing choices. And maybe it is. Maybe I need to be thinking about what I'm spending my money on and what I need to rob. Is there something,
exactly.
Is there something that I need to take back or take, or is it a good use of my energy to be blowing something up right now? So,
and that I think one of the most important questions that we can ask ourselves, and I'm not even saying it's easy because I know it's not, because I don't do it. I don't do it constantly. Is to ask yourself why.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like if I'm buying a box of, I don't really buy cereal, but if I'm buying a box of cereal, am I saying, why am I buying this box of cereal? I don't ask myself why I buy stuff. What did I just get? I got that cake. That sheet cake. I didn't ask myself why I was getting it. If I said why, I'd have just been like, well, it looks good or whatever. That'd been my why. But that's as deep as it would have gone. But then if you're about to spend a lot of money, or you're about to move to some place, even if it's just another neighborhood or whatever, you might say, well, why am I doing this? Why am I moving to this particular place? Why am I buying this big ticket item? Why am I buying this car instead of that one? And so on. And again, I don't think that it's practical to think that a person will ask themselves that for every single thing they buy and every single decision they make. But some things, if it can be life changing, then maybe you should ask yourself why. Or like we watch these K-dramas and different shows, right? And something simple, yet something very simple, turns into a big deal. Like in Crash Landing on You, when the North Korean told the South Korean woman, go this way, and she went the other way because she didn't trust him. That was just a quick decision, and it might not have seemed like a big decision at the time, but it ended up turning that whole thing upside down.
I think she thought it was a big decision at the time. She's like, can I trust him? Can I not trust him if I go?
Right.
But I know what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what, if she had made the decision and ended up back in South Korea, there wouldn't have been a show.
Yeah.
But then it ended up turning into this long drawn out thing that involved a lot of people's lives and life and death.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that one decision.
Mm-hmm. And I extend the invitation. I think that in terms of self-examination, like, for example, the poem about my rights, for me, it kind of deals with layering, like going within and also going without, and seeing the layers and the connections in the big picture. And I think that when I'm trying to see the big picture, sometimes I'm not able to perceive or grasp the macrocosm, but I might be able to grasp and analyze something, a small part of it. And through that practice, then I'm able to begin to understand things bigger, as above, so below. So it may be, there may be some fruitfulness. And, of course, I would argue that there is some fruitfulness in examining something like buying some sheet cake. And that may be what's accessible to me at this moment. I may not be able to do any in-depth analysis about imperialism and white supremacy writ large, but look, that's my expression for the day, writ large and writ small. But I can do something about it, or I can begin to understand it and make sense of it in a small way, and then you can extrapolate outward from there.
What is writ large and writ small?
So, like, the microcosm is writ small, the macrocosm is writ large. Okay. So if something, like some of the things that you can see, in small vibrations, some of the ways that you make choices about small things can be reflective of, how you make choices about large things. And generally, I would argue that they are. I know you were looking at the clock. There's one other thing I
was actually looking at the peaks.
Oh,
you're not peaking. You only peaked once.
I peaked once. I didn't even know it because I think we're out of time. But I wanted to loop back to what you like to call the eternal question, which I think is just your eternal question. Because for me, it's not really even. It seems very clear to me, but maybe I'm not able to whatever. But I think that when you are able to be responsible is when you become responsible.
Right, I believe that too.
Okay,
but my I'll say issue. My issue with it is, when is that point? I think only the person can know that.
The person and God,
right? So I can't know that.
Right.
Therefore, it's really my place to kind of withhold my judgment.
Exactly.
Because there's no way for me to know
absolutely
what that point is.
Absolutely.
And I see. My thing is, I see so much of us judging each other and coming down like a ton of bricks on each other. But again, if someone had met me 15, 20 years ago, they could have pushed me in a totally different direction by dogging me out. I'd be like, at the moment that I'm, about to like turn what I consider the right way, because now I feel like my thinking is more correct. I could have been getting ready to start thinking the right way and then have a bunch of people, oh, you just a coon, you this, and pushed me back in the direction that I shouldn't have been going. So that's what I feel judgment can do to people. But, there are a lot of people who, I understand don't feel that way. That's just how I feel about it.
Well, me personally, I feel like, judgment is for ourselves. Like, I can evaluate myself and God can evaluate me.
Right.
So when I'm able to be conscious enough to notice myself really invested in, and I don't have any children. So that like makes it even clearer for me, because I think it can be more challenging when you have children to, know when to say stop smoking and when to just shut up.
Right.
But I know for me, shoot, even with the dogs, I'd be like, well, they do their thing. That's between.
If I see somebody smoking, drinking, and so on, the most that I can say is to speak to that moment and say that's not good for you.
But it's
not my place to try to examine their motivations for doing it and why they do it.
But did they ask you if it was good for you, or is that just your unsolicited opinion?
That could be my unsolicited opinion. But if I care about somebody and I see them doing something that I know is killing them, then I may or may not say something about it, depending on my relationship with the person.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all I'm saying is that, once again, if you notice the conversation, it always circles around back to us, but at the same time, where's the examination of the people who put us in this freaking meat grinder, of the people who put us in this pressure cooker, of the people who threw all of us crabs into this barrel? We love talking about crabs in the barrel. The natural state of a crab is not a barrel. When we used to walk along the beach and see those crabs, they're walking around free as a bird. Crabs walking free as a bird. Crabs walking free as crabs. And they're just doing what they do and minding their own business. They're not seeking out each other and pulling each other down into a hole.
Right. And if they were doing it, that was under the sand. We sure couldn't see it. Because everybody looked like they was on their own thing.
Right, minding their own business. But the natural state of a crab is not a barrel. So my question isn't why do they keep pulling each other down back into the barrel? My question is, why are they in a freaking barrel? Who put them in that barrel? What's their purpose for having them in a barrel? And so these are the questions that I seldom hear our people talk about when we talk about our own people. And I feel like that's a problem.
And I feel like, it's a problem for me that speaks back to African-centered education and us. I feel like there's the educational system is not there's no motivation for the educational system to educate us, or this educational system to educate us, to tear it down or to see it for what it is, or to point at it and call a spade or whatever.
Right.
So I feel like, so I feel like it is a problem. And again, I feel like it speaks to the broader problem, the deeper problem of, the situation that we're in, and how do we, as a people, as families, as communities, get more and more freedom from this evil,
right,
or what seems to be evil to me, for sure.
And unfortunately, we're in a position that we have to watch everything, be careful of everything we do, pretty much. And that's just the reality of it. It's not fair, it's not right, but that's the hand that we've been dealt. My son and I have gotten back to playing our weekly chess games. He comes over, we play chess every Sunday and talk. And we stopped playing for a while, and in all that time, he never beat me. We just played and played, and he never beat me. And now we've started playing again, I haven't beaten him once. We've played about 6 games so far, and I have not beat him one game. But last week's game, I came at him hard, and I had him. And then I made one stupid move without paying attention, and he came back and beat me. And it was because I carelessly made this move. I got cocky, made the move, and you could just see the relief on his face, and he came back and lit me up and won the game. And even the weekend before that, I can't remember what move it was. I just know that I had my queen in his territory, and my queen and a bishop, I think, had his queen in jeopardy. He couldn't move it, and I can't remember what move he made, but even when he made the move, I just blew up and told him how brilliant it was, because I didn't even see it. But he made this move that was absolutely brilliant and got himself out of that situation. So in the first case where he got out of that situation, it was that he concentrated on the board and he thought his way out of it, and he made an absolutely brilliant move. I'm still like thinking about that, because it was just an awesome move. And he came back and he won. And in the second one, I had him and stopped paying attention, basically, and got off my game from being so cocky, because I thought I had him, and made what I would call a foolish move, or an unthinking move, and lost the game. Mm-hmm. And in both those cases, I feel that's where our people are. We're in a place where we can either make a foolish move and lose the game, or we can concentrate, watch the board very closely, and then make a brilliant move that causes us to win the game. Mm. And so that's just my thought about that. Is that whole minding my own business. I see the things going on around me. I see, you almost can't help but see it. But it still, for me, goes back to I'll just mind my own business. And then minding your own business, that can help your people, because when they see you making good moves, when they see you doing different things, and you're able to, to win, then they're like, well, shoot, they're no smarter or better than me. I can make good moves too and win. Mm-hmm. Type of thing. So,
All right. So I don't know. if we talk much about anger and misdirected anger, but
right. Well, my overall feeling was just when we're looking at our people and all we look is as far as our people go, and we're just coming down on us. I use the word anger, but that might be a misnomer. It's just the way that we are toward our people, as opposed to focusing on the people who caused us to be in this mess, or focusing
on ourselves personally, right, and what we can do.
Yeah, I think that's a problem.
Yeah. So, or it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity when we notice ourselves, with our energy, misdirected to, to redirect it and direct it strategically. We're talking about chess. Directed strategically. We talk about stress, that thing we watched with Ibrahim, which I always talk about. It's like, your perspective is always gonna, affect your analysis. So if your perspective is really small and you only see, a small part of the chessboard, then your ability to do analysis is going to be hampered.
Right.
And to strategize is going to be hampered.
Right. If you catch a wider angle.
Historically seeing the connections between, for me, I think that hierarchy is really an issue. I think, whenever you put something on top, you put something on the bottom,
right.
And, depending on where you happen to be, you're going to be at the top or the bottom or oppressed or not or whatever.
Right.
But, seeing the bigger picture, seeing things writ large as opposed to,
Right. I know you want to slip that in one more time. It's all good. So I think that's all I have to say about the matter. Do you have anything else?
No. I wanted to say that writ large, in clear and obvious, and in a stark and exaggerated form. Maybe I made up writ small. Let's see. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. So I guess that's about it for today. And once again, as always, we thank you for listening to this Drapetomaniac podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC that is the head Drapetomaniac in charge, and my beautiful wife, Angela.
And since I'm from Detroit, I should have started off by saying, what up, doe? Because your story dealt with Detroit a little bit.
All
so,
right.
Bye, or peace out. That's what I used to say in high school, peace out.
And we're wishing you peace and blessings, sanity, safety, and security through separation. And, what did I say?
Security.
No, until next week at the same time. There we go. And until next week at this same time, we will see you on the run. Thank you for listening. I don't know why I always get stuck on that.
I don't know. You haven't said it enough, I guess. And thank you again for listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.